Well, good morning again, and welcome to our conversation with the interim president, Teresa Woodruff. My name is Marilyn Amy, and I'm the assistant provost for faculty and academic staff development, and we're very excited that you're with us this morning. A few housekeeping points before we get started. First, this is being recorded, and it will be available for you to review after it's been made accessible. We're asking that because of the number of people that are going to be with us this morning, that you post your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, and then we'll try to answer what time allows and work to answer the rest of the questions following this session. So, Teresa Woodruff has served the university as interim president since November 2022, leading and advancing MSU's strategic priorities of student, faculty, and staff success, research and innovation, sustainable health, financial stewardship and environmental sustainability, and campus diversity and safety. Prior to assuming the role of interim president, Dr. Woodruff served as provost and executive vice president for academic affairs, beginning in late summer 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. So she has led us through several challenging circumstances, but has always seen what the institution can be and sought ways to foster and support our individual and collective excellence. While perspective may have broadened since taking on the interim presidency, her commitment to the missions of MSU and all of us has not changed. Whether you're hearing her for the first time as a new member of the university community or tuning in to hear her insights and vision at this moment in time, I know you're going to learn a lot this morning. And as we know, sometimes it's very healthy for all of us to pause from the day-to-day for a moment and reflect on where we are going and why. No doubt our time this morning with interim provost Woodruff, interim president Woodruff, she knew I was going to do that, sorry, will provide us this opportunity for all of us to think, to reflect, and to see forward into the future as she leads us in this time. So please join me in welcoming MSU Interim President Teresa K. Woodruff. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Marilyn, thank you so much for that, that invitation to this conversation and for the introduction. I really appreciate that. And I do agree, much has happened across our campus in the last bit, and perhaps since January 18th, when I last gave a campus update when we were all gathered together for a President's University Forum. This also includes the tragedy of February 13th. And so before I update you on that way forward and the work of the university during the past 9 months, I think just to take from what you said, we do want to just take a collective moment to share in a moment of reflection over the time that we've been here. So I do want to turn our attention now to the university's current initiatives. And I note that this work is possible because of the entire campus and your commitment to the success of our students and the work of the university to create and disseminate knowledge. As a community, we're defined by the collective achievements of our employees, students, retirees, and alums. So today I want to focus on all the good work that you do, which may not capture headlines, but does exemplify the essence of who we are as Spartans. And what a university you have built. What a beautiful community we have forged. A year ago, I asked each of you to look upward to find strength, confidence, and Spartan pride. And if you spend some time doing so, if you gather in community with our students in Spartan Stadium at homecoming, or listen to our faculty or a graduate student teaching a class, as I did last night, or see our staff keeping the university running, then you know there is much to celebrate. And I'm delighted to report that we have a strong and diverse entering class of more than 10,917 first-year and transfer undergraduate students, which is comparable to last year's record class. Over 8,500 of these students come from Michigan. That makes Michigan State, once again, the #1 choice for students across the state. All told, the powerful draw of our people and this place has attracted 51,316 students to MSU this fall, according to the provost's official quarter term count. In total, about 40,483 of those students are undergraduates, the largest group on record. This is up 1,293 students over the last year, due chiefly to improved retention of undergraduate students, a great signal that our work in fostering belonging is working. The community engagement, social and well-being opportunities we are providing across the university are helping students succeed in and out of the classroom. Our strengthening persistence numbers are all the more worth celebrating because our time to degree numbers continue to fall below 4 calendar years. And our graduate and professional enrollment numbers are comparable to last year's. This is also the most diverse student body in the university's history, with students from diverse backgrounds comprising 27% of the student body. The provost will share more on these numbers, and I hope you had pen and paper as I was going through them, but it's been a very exciting fall for our university and certainly for each of those students as they walk through our front door. As I think about our beautiful community, I find myself thinking about the generations of Spartans who came before us and laid the strong foundation on which we are built. I especially think about former President John Hanna and what I have come to understand as his 6 consequential actions that established MSU as a university of global significance. Those actions were strengthening MSU's infrastructure, preparing for a more globally interdependent future, extending MSU's reach and reputation, investing in nuclear science, initiating a new set of general studies courses, and establishing a medical school. Taken together, these 6 consequential actions spurred an inflection point for our university, or what I like to call its greatest upward delta of the 20th century. Today, I believe we are reaching a similar 21st century inflection point. And I would like to share with you how the university is advancing 6 consequential actions of our strategic plan, and in so doing is setting a course for the next century of Spartan progress. I also assert for your consideration that the measure of our rise as an institution is the measure of our efforts to foster excellence and opportunity for all. So let me begin with action 1, infrastructure. Infrastructure is an extent of what I like to call our placemaking efforts. By this, I mean fostering a beautiful and dynamic natural and built environment that uplifts all Spartans as well as the broader community. President Hanna's very first task upon being named secretary to the Board of Agriculture in 1935, MSU's then governing board, were to address lingering union building and football stadium financing issues and to fix the old Farm Lane Bridge. By the time he assumed the presidency in 1941, it was clear that attracting and retaining top faculty also had to be addressed, requiring an adequate library and the, in quotes, laboratories and facilities required for distinguished teaching and research. As President Hanna wrote in a 1968 letter to leaders, MSU's environment was certainly worthy of extending and protecting in the years ahead. I certainly agree, and I'm grateful to our colleagues in infrastructure, planning, and facilities for leading the charge in advancing our campus facilities and land use plan. This plan, which has been developed over the last 2 years with input from every member of our university community, prioritizes the enhancement of our quality of life and work while nurturing a sense of community and belonging. And if you look all around you, you will see cranes in the sky and shovels in the ground to turn this ideal into a reality. Let's start on the corner of North Shaw and Farm Lanes, where MSU's first freestanding multicultural center rises. It will be a physical manifestation of our commitment to fostering an inclusive and welcoming community. Building began this summer, and we anticipate a ribbon cutting sometime next year. And we have a new pedestrian bridge over Farm Lane, also built during the summer months, making it safer for drivers and those of us on bike or on foot to move across the river. Let's travel now in our minds west to the old Cherry Lane site, where we just broke ground on our new student recreation and wellness center. We know that health and wellness are inextricably linked to the success of our students. This wonderful new center will enable that success, helping student well-being with the opportunity to connect with one another through recreation. We also cut the ribbon on renovated and expanded School of Packaging space. Our school maintains its #1 ranking in the nation and is the only school that offers a PhD in packaging. We now have more than 10,000 alumni worldwide. Investing in excellence is an attribute of our decisioning, and the school is in that vaulted league. Now let's think and look northward to the northern bank of the Red Cedar River, where we find one of my favorite places to reflect and recharge. Beal Botanical Garden. We are celebrating our 150th year of connecting people, plants, and place, and the garden looks terrific with new plantings and trees throughout the space. A 21st century workforce requires 21st century facilities, and we are making plans for that future. We received funding from the state of Michigan for an expansion of our greenhouses and a new dairy facility. We also received $30 million in the state budget just this June for an engineering and digital innovation center. This center is intended to invert our educational model, allowing colleges to collaborate on the educational models that will keep pace with an ever-changing digitally enabled world. 7 colleges will be in this center. So instead of going to a college, the colleges will come to you. The state of Michigan believes in our model of education, and I'm excited by this bold future. And we are working with Henry Ford Health to create a research building in Detroit to expand our work in fundamental and applied medical sciences. Each of these buildings help attract the best faculty and staff and better prepare our students for the jobs of tomorrow. I invite you all to visit campusplan.msu.edu to learn a bit more about the campus planning work that we have started. The second action is globalizing MSU. Speaking of preparing our students for the future, MSU has a rich history of forging global citizen. This is Hannah's second consequential action, which was preparing us for a more globally interdependent future. Hannah saw the importance of universities like MSU participating in the nation's post-war drive to support developing nations. Under his leadership, we helped create institutions of higher education in Brazil, Colombia, Okinawa, Nigeria, and Pakistan. He also established our Office of International Programs, headed by a dean in 1956, the first such office among major universities in the United States. Today, we carry on the Hannah legacy in so many ways, from launching the Alliance for African Partnership to celebrating this year the 150th anniversary of MSU's entrance of our first international students. One area where I'm especially impressed with our efforts is around sustainability. Reaching first across Michigan and then extending internationally, Spartans are leading the way in creating a greener future. We welcome Chip Amo as our Director of Sustainability at MSU this summer, and he has hit the ground running and is working with university partners on a sustainability strategic plan. He has cataloged our footprint in sustainability with over 500 folks engaged in research that addresses sustainability and global challenges like climate change. Professor Bruno Basso, for example, last summer landed a nearly $2 million federal grant to help underserved agricultural professionals learn to sequester carbon, which not only reduces greenhouse gas emissions, but also allows them to tap into soil carbon markets in which private companies and nonprofits will pay them for their efforts. We also had over 27,000 students who participated in community engaged learning projects aligned with the UN Sustainability Development Goals in the last academic year. A big shout out to the Center for Community Engaged Learning for facilitating this amazing effort. Many of our Spartan staff are also working on developing, demonstrating, and deploying sustainable practices and efficiency. In fact, a wonderful group of staff recently sent me a 25-page summary of these efforts. And let me say, all I could say when I read it is wow. Wow to our award-winning Surplus and Recycling Center, which received the 2023 Excellence in Sustainability Award from the National Association of College and Universities Business Officers. And wow to Student Life and Engagement's Pack Up, Pitch In efforts. Spartans recycled over 104,000 pounds of materials from the residence halls during fall move-in. Add to this our cutting-edge research, robust curriculum, community engagement efforts, and sustainable operational practices. And no wonder then that we continue to be recognized as a global leader in sustainability. Our Times Higher Education Impact ranking of 26th globally and second in the United States certainly deserves a big wow. I don't know if John Hannah would have put it as exuberantly, but I am confident that we should all be proud of everything that we're doing to forge a greener future for the globe. Action 3, extending the reach and reputation of MSU, is the next thing I'd like to address. During President Hannah's tenure, MSU experienced a period of extraordinary growth, and its star rose like never before. Hannah knew that MSU deserved to be counted among the nation's great universities and that we would be known by the company we keep with professional associations. So after many years of effort, we succeeded in getting MSU into the Big Ten Conference in 1950. And in 1964, the university was admitted to the prestigious Association of American Universities, confirming MSU's transformation from an agricultural college to a major national university that had developed a worldwide reach. Just as MSU's greatness was recognized in Hannah's time, so too is it being recognized today. I measure the greatness of our university in each hand I shake at graduation, in the papers and products of our faculty that I read, and in each staff accomplishment. And by these individual measures, MSU is truly a great university. The world, however, measures greatness through external rankings. And by these standards, we are also excelling. Just this month, US News and World Report released its rankings, and MSU has risen to number 60 in the country. This is a 17-place increase in our national position, eclipsing many other great universities. It is also the highest ranking held by MSU in our history. I will say that again because it is worth celebrating. It is the highest ranking held by MSU in our history. We also jumped 18 places from last year to number 63 among all US four-year colleges and universities in the new Forbes ranking. And we rose to number 21 among public institutions in Washington Monthly's Best College rankings. And recently, we learned that the Wall Street Journal has ranked MSU number 14 among public universities in the United States. Our colleges and every single member of this university are responsible for this upward trajectory. It takes all of us pulling in the same direction, and I applaud each and every one of you. There's one national ranking I'd like to say a bit more about, and that's our amazing nuclear physics graduate program, which ranks number 2 in the nation this year and spent 13 years at number 1. Once again, John Hannah propelled MSU forward, making a world-class physics program a cornerstone of MSU's growth strategy. During his time, MSU built the National Superconducting Cyclotron Laboratory, or the K50. Nearly 60 years ago, the K50 accelerated its first beam. And as MSU today declared in its story, quote, "The university and the scientific world haven't been the same since." I spoke with Professor Emeritus Sam Austin last week about that time, and he said he had little knowledge of what was going on in the rest of the university. He had his down working on the K50. As a brief aside, I met with our university faculty emeriti last week and our staff retirees a couple of weeks ago. They are inspiring for their years of service and ongoing ways that they support the university. And I'm grateful for each of them and for their contributions to the foundation on which we now stand. So returning to our research prowess in physics, this summer we were honored to work with the French government and research colleagues to establish the first international research laboratory dedicated to nuclear physics and astrophysics here at EFRIB in the heart of MSU's campus. And just this week, the High Rigidity Spectrometer project at EFRIB was awarded $115 million from the U.S. Department of Energy Office of Science. This will enable scientists to characterize the properties of isotopes that are created in rare isotope reactions produced at about 50% of the speed of light. These types of partnerships are magnificent ways in which we continue to carry the torch of progress and build an MSU that works alongside the best minds to solve the greatest challenges of our time. Our ambitions in this domain are great, and under the leadership of Thomas Glasmacher, we expect to remain in the lead in this area. To do so, we are working with the MSU Research Foundation, who celebrated their 50th anniversary last week. The MSU Research Foundation was founded on the proceeds of two cancer drugs, cisplatin and carboplatin. Innumerable lives have been saved because of the discoveries of Barney Rosenberg, Loretta Van Camp, and their research group regarding the anti-tumorigenic properties of these chemicals. Today, the foundation and the university are in lockstep to build out an ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation. Among many metrics of success in the last 9 months, we opened The Bridge, which is an incubator space on the Medical Mile in Grand Rapids. The Bridge is a space where we develop high-tech, high-growth startups. In August alone, 4 new startups signed leases in the incubator facility, spanning finance, professional services, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology. And the foundation provided $5 million new dollars over the next 5 years to support our work in world-class plant science programs. Earlier this month, the National Academy of Inventors ranked MSU number 48 on its list of top U.S. universities granted patents last year. A legacy and present of excellence, using that excellence to drive innovation and a top 50 ranking. These are all important metrics of our rise. So Action 5 for Hannah was initiating a new set of general studies course. When he assumed the presidency at the outset of World War II, Hannah realized it was a good time to prepare MSU's curriculum for the return of veterans and advance a new approach to essential education that would better prepare students for a changing world. The world has changed, and we are preparing students for that world. And I was reminded of this in part by the work that we're doing in the arts. And earlier this month, I attended the MSU Broad Art Museum Fall opening party, which many of you attended as well. Zaha Hadid is the architect of that stunning building, and she was someone who thought literally outside of the box. She said there are 360 degrees, so why stick to one? We can say that about art itself. Art shifts perspectives and helps us see even complex issues in new ways. Or to put it differently, the arts fuel the creativity necessary to think in 360 degrees. MSU is celebrating our own 360-degree approach with the launch this September of what we call Arts MSU, a unified presence for the arts on our campus and a platform to uplift the arts as an essential part of what it means to be a Spartan. Let me share just 2 more ways in which the spirit of general education continues to energize the Spartan experience in advising and athletics. So for advising, we know that transitioning into college is a huge step for many of our students. and uncertainty about what to do next can be scary. That's why we invested in the Advising Initiative, which is building a new shared model of advising for all first and second year students. Our advisors do wonderful work to reassure students that the idea of exploring options and trying new things is okay and even encouraged. Indeed, the structured and unstructured opportunities they offer our students are invaluable, helping them step outside their comfort zones and discover their passions. Thank you to all the advisors out there who are helping our students make major choices. You are helping propel our students forward to earning their degree and making a difference in the world. And this is a measure of our rise. Athletics, too, teaches our students important lessons to carry with them as they prepare for lives of purpose and success. Athletics helps our student athletes build a sense of community in ways that few others can. And this is for our student athletes in our varsity sports, as well as in our recreational and club sports. That commitment to teamwork, to being there for one another, and treating opponents with respect. I think if our student athletes leave here with that commitment and apply it to their careers, I think we've done a good job in preparing them to be good students, good citizens who build bridges. I'm grateful to our world-class athletics department and AD Alan Haller, to all the advisors and trainers, coaches, and assistant coaches who enable our student athletes' success. And I would be remiss if I didn't note that the news of the day does involve leaders within our athletic department. And I won't comment on that specific matter, but here I wanted to quote Tom Izzo, who said earlier this week, quote, "My message to everybody is stay the course. Adversity, you learn from it. I would tell them all to stick together, fight the fight. Let's grow and get better. Adversity makes all of us stronger." So from the arts to advising to athletics, we are acting on Action 5. If we move now on to Action 6, this final one was establishing a medical school. President Hanna saw numerous MSU graduates, after gaining a solid base in biological sciences, to pursue medical studies elsewhere. He envisioned a medical school model more closely connected to the university's existing academic programs, and in 1964, the College of Human Medicine was created as a community-based medical school. Today, with 2 medical colleges and a College of Nursing, in addition to our long-established College of Veterinary Medicine, I believe we've accomplished more than Hanna even could have imagined. So I'm going to run out of time here, Marilyn, before we get to questions. So I'm just going to focus on one example of our impact in this arena, which is our partnership with Henry Ford Health in Detroit. When I think about partnerships, I find myself asking the question, what can we uniquely do together that we can't do apart? So quite simply, conjoining the strengths of world-class academic clinical research and healthcare allows us to climb the highest medical mountains. And together with Henry Ford Health, we will set a new standard for how individuals and communities experience care across the state of Michigan and, I believe, the nation. Our Henry Ford Health plus MSU Health Sciences partnership is creating a healthier tomorrow by focusing on 5 big areas. First, we are advancing research, having submitted 258 NIH proposals and received nearly $25 million in funding to date. Second, we are combating cancer, focusing on closing the gap in healthcare outcomes for individuals with cancer based on race, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status. Partnership investments in cancer research include nearly $2 million in seed funding and integration grants to cultivate collaboration and blaze a path to innovative clinical trials. Third, we're evolving education and preparing the next generation of physicians and nurses to care for patients. I'm proud to report that 351 Henry Ford clinical and research faculty have been appointed to MSU, 111 of whom are research faculty. Fourth, we're creating health equity and training diverse future physicians, nurses, and other healthcare providers. And finally, we're helping strengthen Detroit to do everything from creating jobs for residents to attracting industry partners interested in health innovation. And speaking of that innovation, earlier this month, the university was honored when MSU alums Dan and Jennifer Gilbert worked with us through a new Nick Gilbert Neurofibromatosis Research Institute alongside the Gilbert Family Foundation and Henry Ford Health. This new institute will be the first brick and mortar institute in the country solely dedicated to neurofibromatosis, and one of the first institutes to leverage organoid technology and other novel models to address a single disease. EVPHA Norm Beauchamp is to be applauded for his efforts, as are the members of the healthcare leadership team and those in central administration making this partnership work. This is just the tip of the iceberg of our efforts in Detroit. In fact, MSU has more than 120 ongoing projects there, and we've been an active partner in the neighborhoods throughout the city for decades. The health of our community is critical for the success of our university, and just under 1 year ago, we welcomed Dr. Alexis Travis to MSU to lead the new University Health and Wellbeing Division. This year, she and her team have led, aligned, and provided comprehensive campus-based health and wellness approaches that is meeting the diverse needs of students, staff, and faculty. This has been a difficult year for our campus, and mobilizing this effort were Senior Vice President Vinnie Gore and President Emeritus Sam Stanley. Their vision for structure that resulted in the function we see and need today is to be commended. Even as we begin this academic year, we continue to look toward the future and the financial position of the institution. While we enjoy a strong balance sheet and bond credit rating, we know that our operating margins are very thin. And it is in this context that we continue to need to prioritize key decision-making. Most of our general fund revenue derives from tuition, and Provost Yaitzko and his team are working on enrollment plans for next year. We are grateful to the governor and to the state legislature for the increase in appropriations this year. The investments that we make in our people are critical, and we prioritize that investment above all others in the budget voted on by the Board of Trustees in June. Increases in grant funding have been strong, and we are well on our way toward meeting our $1 billion goal by the year 2030. Of course, those funds, by definition, must be used to achieve the research goals for which the funding was provided. It's too early to know what kinds of support we might get in next year's state budget, with its dependency on our state finances and the economics of the state and the nation. We do continue to invest in financial aid to ensure access and support for our mission, and we wish to make investments in our programs. Our ability to do all of these things will be shaped not only by our own success in attracting students and garnering additional support from the state, but also by the world economy. And on that note, economists are quite mixed in their outlook. We are watching carefully all the predictive economic signals from the state and federal government as we move toward next spring and the development of the budget for fiscal year 2025. There will be many opportunities and there will be some constraints. And as those become clear, we will share those decisions with you. And so I'm going to close at this point. I know our time is a bit fleeting, but the good we do to build a foundation of excellence, I believe, is durable. Former MSU President Peter McPherson beautifully made this point during the 2004 Hannah statue dedication. He said this: Hannah saw opportunity and he built. Hannah saw closed doors and he opened them. Hannah saw talent and he recruited it. Hannah saw what would work here and he internationalized it. Hannah saw a college that could be transformed into a great university, and he made it so. And just yesterday, Faculty Senate Chair Jack Lipton said, quote, "I'm very much looking forward to working with the faculty, academic staff, students, and administration to inexorably improve the environment in which we all hope to learn, teach, conduct scholarship, and advance our own careers and those of others." Hear, hear. So Hannah had 6 consequential actions: strengthening MSU's infrastructure, preparing for a more globally interdependent future, extending MSU's reach and reputation, investing in nuclear science, initiating a new set of general studies courses, and establishing a medical school. While it's difficult to see an inflection point in one's own time, I believe, and I hope you know, that we are excelling in fostering excellence and opportunity for all, which speaks to the measure of our rise as a great university. You are creating that upward trajectory. The university has been through a troubling period, but you are rising. And so to those who came much before us, and to all of you today, and to those Spartans who will see our shadows shimmering on the fields of the future, think well of MSU and its purpose, its legacy, its excellence, and its durability. And with that, Marilyn, go green.
Go white. Thank you, President Woodruff. As I know, people on the call are thankful for the comments that you have made this morning, for the vision and reflection that you have provided. And we've been getting a lot of comments about the thank you for the shout outs that you have given across campus, which, as you know, doesn't always come from our senior leaders. So the accolades for those recognitions, as you have done your comments this morning, is really heartfelt by everybody, and a big thank you for that. What does come to mind then is kind of tying all of those things together that you were describing. We have so much to be excited and pleased about. Right. And because of what the university has been through, and the growth in students without perhaps the same requisite growth in staff, we're recruiting and trying to retain excellent members of our community in all respects. It gets a little complicated when we try to think about what it means on the ground to enact everything that you just were talking about. Right. So if you could offer some thoughts about the ways in which what you are describing in the grand MSU comes down for those who are on the ground trying to recruit and retain students and staff who work with them, and the educators who are so important to the things that you described. When we see intergenerational differences between those who are new and young, those who may be more senior and perhaps retired and trying to stay connected, et cetera. It's a pretty complex community that you're talking about that now is also geographically dispersed. This is not to have an answer, but do you have some perspectives on how we can live out the visions that you're talking about on a local level?
That's really an important question, Marilyn. I was thinking about, as you asked the question about the generational differences, I've been using the word Rolodex, and I realize that there's an absolute division when some people know what I mean and some people don't. I use it, and I'm looking in my Rolodex for the name of someone I might be walking up to. And there are some people that just have no idea what that word means. So, there are differences across a university, and that has always been part of academic life. And one of the things that I think for many of us, we embrace as part of the grand challenge of creating new knowledge. For many people who think the business cycle of academics is you do it one year and then you do it exactly the same next year, that is absolutely not the case. Every year, we actually change the nature of what we do. There is no other business that is as ambitious as academics. And certainly, as we look back at the past of Michigan State, you can see those upward trajectories, those big step changes that we have taken that really do magnify the excellence. But as you said, sometimes it's hard when you're in the middle of these transitions to see that inflection in one direction or the other. And sometimes it's easier to focus on the headline of the day rather than the overall trajectory of the work that you do. And so it is the case that I think in these macro plans are the individuals. And so it is in each hand that we shake at graduation. It is that individual who comes to the dais to be hooded for a PhD, that walks forward in one way and walks away in another. It is the individual progress of an individual staff member on a day to complete a task. It is in those faculty papers that get published. But even when they've been published, the next paper is in the works. What we do is very heuristic. As we come to a point where we have new knowledge, new questions get up. And so it is in the dailiness that the work gets done. And if we all see ourselves as part of this larger vision, that dailiness is as valuable an asset as the overall summation of that work. It is, in fact, the summation of that work. So it is sometimes easy to get cynical to say, oh, well, there's all this out here, or I can't possibly be that, without every single individual within this organization doing their part with goodwill and ambition. The institution stagnates. And so I want to thank everyone within the entire community, our retirees, our newest student, our alumni who are back this weekend, and every employee in the work that they do for enabling this grand vision. And my message is to stay the course and perhaps to see oneself in this grander vision allows you to know that that dailiness is a valuable asset to you and to the overall organization.
Thank you for that response. And I think for those many on the call, myself included, whose day gets filled up very quickly with tasks that seem like they don't matter to the metrics that you're talking about, that sense of belonging that you're conveying and the responsibility and presence of us all is a very reassuring thing to hear from a university president. You talked about all of our engagement in various locations across the state and several global examples. And a question has come in that perhaps you can speak to directly. All of that is really important to the missions of MSU for sure. We also are here, our main campus in East Lansing, and our immediate surround seems sometimes to not get the kind of attention that perhaps we are expending in Detroit or in Grand Rapids or globally. Can you talk about how we might reinvest, if you will, that's my word, not the questioner's word, in our surround, in those kind of partnerships that you spoke about?
Well, the first thing I would say to that macro view of us, I would say this to everyone in Spartan Nation: sing our song of excellence. Sing our song of excellence. There are multiple verses to that, Marilyn. And I think in as much as we heed that call to look upward, we have to tell our story every day. And again, it is easy to sometimes be leadened in our view by a singularity, a single person, a single story. We have to sing our song of excellence. And when I came, you and I spent some time thinking about honorifics. And we looked with Bethan and others in institutional research at the very specific parts of some of these rankings where we just hid our light under a bushel. And we said no to that. And as a consequence, the honorifics office within the office for the within the Office for Faculty and Academic Staff Development in the Office of the Provost began looking at all of these metrics. There had to be excellence in order for those metrics to be measured. And so I think we should sing our song of excellence. And I try everywhere I go to talk about all of you. And when I say I read faculty papers, when I go and shake hands with staff on campus, I'm hearing and learning the stories. And I think all of you are as well. I think of this in every picture that Derek Turner takes that we see weekly. And I look in those pictures and I see the inspiration of place. I see the inspiration of people. I see the inspiration of plants. And I see the inspiration of purpose. So for all of us, we have to sing our song. And so, within the local environment, I met with Mayor Bacon just 2 days ago, the mayor of East Lansing, to talk about our relationships with the city and how we are enabling to a positive community environment. I met with Mayor Shore 2 weeks ago, the mayor of Lansing. I met with city managers in Frankenmuth in early August to talk about the way in which Michigan State, which is in all 83 counties through our healthcare and extension providers. And by the way, our extension folks, about 520 of them are on campus this week. And I had the great pleasure of meeting with them last night at the Kellogg and celebrating their excellence. And they are telling our story across Michigan State and the state. So investing in people's belief in the institution is a key attribute of where Michigan State is now. We have to keep our vision upward. We have to tell the stories of success because they are there, they are valid, they are legitimate, and I think that's part of our story.
And you would attribute that activity also to our closer to campus, so Lansing, greater Lansing area, right, and all of that?
So one of those would be Lansing Community College. So with Steve Robinson, a great Spartan and fellow president, we've created Envision Green to make it easier for transfer students to come from Lansing to Michigan State. Those students largely come from Lansing and from this local area. That is an uplift for the institution. We were able to acquire Lori Lippenscott, the director of the Center for, CDL, Center for Development, Maryland. Our program for, Lori's going to kill me. I just saw her last night for our program that recognized folks who've been here 25 years or more, but our student development lab, $2.5 million, that's going in Lansing. And, we have been building in Lansing for many, many years, and in fact, have about 10 pages of ways in which we have engaged in Lansing. WKAR put over $1 million in federal earmark in this year's budget into kids programming in Lansing. So we have built out a community of engagement, and it's always terrific that people want to press for more. And I have a saying that you've heard me say often: I'm happy but not satisfied. And certainly partners in these communities are happy but not satisfied. So a key area for us with Mayor Bacon and Mayor Shore is to look at housing. What are the affordable housing? What new housing is coming into these two adjacent communities that are affordable, that particularly could be enabling to our graduate students and their families? And so we have these as active dialogues to make sure that the environment is positive. And my belief is that there is a positively reinforcing outcome of this, because our graduate students will often want to stay in our neighborhoods and in our communities as they complete their degrees. And that's a great way to draw in and maintain their populations. And after all, I'm not only the president of an academic university, I'm the head of the largest business in mid-Michigan. And so as a consequence of that, I think all the time about how people live in our communities. So in these environments, these kinds of investments are really, really critical.
That's great. Thank you. We've had a couple of questions that have come in regarding as we're coming into this academic year, and people do not all attend University Council in any of its configurations. Can you speak a little bit about what efforts are underway or where we have made progress in terms of campus safety and issues associated with Title IX, et cetera, because just so people who are on the call who may not have already heard updates are privileged to understand that better?
Right, I'd be happy to do that. And in fact, what I would invite folks to do is go on the Faculty Senate website. Yesterday, we had 3 talks on safety, one from Marlon Lynch, who gave us an update on where we are, and I will try and summarize that quickly here. We also heard on cybersecurity and research security, and these talks were from Melissa Wu, our Executive Vice President for Administration, and from Doug Gage, our Vice President for Research and Innovation. And those talks are captured on the Faculty Senate website. And we have asked Marlon Lynch to be at every Faculty Senate have asked. I would say there's a we. I do think that Faculty Senate, University Council, we are all working in a concerted way. And I've just been very pleased, and I want to thank all the members, the senators and the leadership of Faculty Senate for the way in which we've all locked arms to determine our shared future and to think through the sticky problems of our day in ways that are enabling to all. So that website is a really key place for where folks can go and click on all of the updates that I think will be valuable. We're about 63% through our LOCK program across campus, and that is, we're on track to continue doing more of that work, particularly as there are lulls in the academic time periods to complete that. Centralizing the Security Operations Center under the leadership of Akeen Bryant is underway, and we have hired a number of new individuals in that program. After action review is ongoing. We expect a report in the next few weeks, and that is an important part of our commitment to campus as we review those matters that occurred particularly with February 13th. I do believe we have a safer and more secure campus, but we continue to be vigilant. Security cameras is another part of that story as we continue to work on that coverage so that we have information across campus. And so those are some of the updates from that work. In terms of Title IX, we have one of the most sophisticated Title IX, largest Title IX offices in higher education. Laura Ruggles came to us in July of this year after a national search that was highly competitive. We're so honored when Laura elected to join us here. She is an incredible professional, is leading a tremendous office. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went over and visited with one in the OCR OIE Title IX office and just thanked each of those individuals in the office for the good work and diligence that they do on our behalf every day. So we have broadened the number of employees within that unit, and Laura's reorganizing around a little bit more of a regularized way of enabling leadership across that unit. And we're all thrilled together. The members of the unit who were really part of the discussion, as well as with Laura's leadership. So we're really grateful for that. So from cybersecurity to Title IX to our physical safety and security, we continue to look at the landscape and enable in the best way and in a coordinated way and in conversation with community, the ways we can enable a safer, more secure and welcoming environment for all.
I think people on the call are going to appreciate the comprehensive way in which you responded to that, because you raised some particular aspects that may not have been on the immediate radar of those asking the question. But we certainly are taking safety and security in all its manifestations into account through your response. So thank you for that. Since I'm mindful of our time, as I always try to be, so in closing, perhaps, as you look forward, you started with John Hannah. So it was kind of, here's what he said at that time. And I can't even imagine what he would say now,
right,
seeing where we have been. But since you took that approach, which was very thoughtful and reflective, when you think out to perhaps a period of time of similar duration, what would you like for someone to be seeing about MSU 50 years from now?
That's a great question. And I think about that because I've been thinking, particularly as I came into homecoming, what might those folks of 1950 think of us today? And what might we think of 2100? What might the people of 2100 think of us today? The things that will be lasting are some of the things we build. There will be an alumni chapel that was built in 1951 that we can walk through, and we can see those beautiful chapel windows with all the dappled lights, where many people have been married and have experienced our red cedar organ and have looked up to the front and seen the beautiful image of brotherhood in 1951 with all the intertwining hands and colors in dappled light of the representing everyone in this MSU community. That will still be there. So what we build will be lasting. And to Dan Bowman and IPF, yes, we still will be replacing roofs. But there will be an MSU in 2100, 70 years hence, 75 years hence. But what will our intellectual contribution to the future be? And that will be in the lives lived by those who come through our halls, through the students who graduate and continue the legacy of Spartans multiple generations on, in the way we communicate with one another. How is it that the MSU ethos of working together in partnership, not in dissent, how do we communicate that more broadly? I think that is an ethos of Michigan State that we need to continue to project. It is also in our resilience that we will place ourselves in the future. I quoted Tom Izzo and his notion on resilience, which I absolutely adhere to. We have to be part of building that confident future. The transformation of our educational model by having colleges coming together rather than students going to colleges. Students will go to colleges, but I actually think that if we get EDIC, the Engineering Digital Innovation Center, right, we will have transformed education once again. We will transform Michigan State once again. And I think many other universities will then become part of this way of thinking. We have to enable a broader group of entrants into the digital future of their future. And if we teach in the same way we do, if we ask people to walk through the doors that are as narrow as they are today, we will not have the citizens of the future who are driving the correct and value-based change that we'll need. So by saying that we are changing educational model in engineering, in digital innovation, it is the most transformational thing that we could do. And so Leo Kempel, our Dean of Engineering, and again, 6 other deans are working together on a bold reimagining of the future. And that way, more students will come to Michigan State. And I believe it's not just for what's in the classroom, but I believe in what happens to students that are transformed by being in our environment. In the classroom and out of the classroom, we change lives. And it is those lives that will go out and meet the world of our making, but their future. And they will imagine a new world and a new way of working. And I think by 2100, Spartans will still be singing Shadows. They'll still be fighting with Vim. And I hope that they look fondly back on our time as we have today looked back on Hannah's time.
I'm hearing the band play Shadows, but also thinking what a wonderful vision for what this institution that was at its pinnacle in 1855, so important to transforming higher education,
right,
will be in 50 years. So Interim President Woodruff, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. The accolades that you will see, the additional questions we didn't have time to answer that you will also see, I think speak to where people are and how much they appreciate the time that you have spent with us today, sharing your thoughts and your wisdom. So thank you all very much for being on the call. Thank you, President Woodruff, and I hope everybody has a really great day.
I do too. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.